Hello, and thank you for tuning in. I'm Anna Espinal-Ray. I'm a principal with the IAASB. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to Josephine Jackson, the long-serving and highly respected Vice-Chair of the IAASB, about her time with the IAASB. Over her years as a board member and now as Vice-Chair, Josephine has played a central role in many of the IAASB's most significant projects, advancing major initiatives on audit quality, on risk assessment, group audits, going concern, fraud, and leading the development of our sustainability assurance standard. Her leadership, her technical expertise, her deep commitment to strengthening global audit and assurance standards have made her an essential voice for the profession. So Josephine, hello, and thank you for speaking with me today.
Hi, Anna. Thank you.
So I have a number of questions that we'll run through. And the first thing I would like to ask you about, looking back on your time with the IAASB, what are you most proud that the board has achieved?
Wow. Well, there's a lot to be proud of. But if I were to choose, for me, it's not about a single milestone, but I guess the cumulative impact of our work. As you said, I'm most proud that the board has strengthened and modernized the global assurance framework in a way that really supports confidence in global capital markets. And over 2 decades, the board has navigated shifting stakeholder expectations, growing regulatory scrutiny, and increasing complexity, of course, in reporting, all, of course, while building consensus across more than 130 jurisdictions with very different regulatory environments and priorities. So, what also stands out for me then is the board's ability to stay firmly anchored in the public interest and still deliver standards that enhance the credibility and coherence of assurance worldwide.
That is very impressive. The IAASB's work has evolved significantly over the years. So what has it been like to help lead such a transformative period?
Well, it's been amazing to see how the IAASB has evolved. I mean, when I first became involved, the focus was very much on long technical discussions and changes to auditing standards, which I think primarily to respond to financial reporting needs. I'm sure others will question that, but that's what it felt like at the time. But over time, the board has become far more strategic and forward-looking. And I suppose you could say we have moved away from incremental improvements to tackling the really big picture issues. And that comes with modernizing the assurance framework, from strengthening quality management to expanding into areas like sustainability assurance. And of course, the way we've worked has changed too. There's much greater emphasis on IAASB staff taking the lead and enhanced outreach and collaboration with global stakeholders. And the board has really embraced a more agile approach to standard setting. So the key is not to just react to change, but anticipate it. And that shift from being primarily technical to being technical, strategic, and innovative is really transformative. And it's really actually been a privilege to help shape that journey.
Amazing. Through that journey, you've worked closely with stakeholders around the world. So how has this global collaboration shaped your perspective on the IAASB's role in serving the public interest?
I suppose it's reinforced for me that serving the public interest starts with listening. I mean, really listening. And I mentioned earlier that every jurisdiction has its own priorities and challenges, whether that's the maturity of their audit market, regulatory expectations, or even the pace of adoption of new standards. But the common thread everywhere is trust. So, trust in reporting. And working with such a diverse group of stakeholders has shown me how important it is that our standards remain principles based and adaptable. So a rules-based one-size-fits-all approach simply wouldn't work on a global stage. For example, when we began developing the sustainability assurance standard, the conversations I had, and there were many, highlighted how different regions are at very different stages. And some have really well-established reporting frameworks, and others are just starting out. And that diversity pushed us to think carefully about scalability and flexibility so our standards can be applied consistently but still work in lots of different contexts. And it also underscored the importance of inclusiveness and agility. Technology, including AI, for example, is a fast moving area, and expectations from investors, regulators, and the public are evolving rapidly. So global collaboration has really helped us anticipate those challenges and ensure that what we do next isn't just technically sound, but also relevant and practical for practitioners and jurisdictions worldwide. I would also add, perhaps more important to me, is all the friends I've made along the way, and that I have really strong talent, a really strong network of very talented friends and colleagues moving forward.
So with that in mind, what moments or discussions about IAASB standards at the board table stand out to you as especially meaningful or defining?
That's really hard to answer because there are there are many moments during the board meetings. I'm sure you feel the same, where I feel the discussions are quite meaningful and can be defining just by the nature of the work that we do. Um, but I guess for me, there are a couple of more recently big step changes with quality management standards and group audits. So quality management really marked a defining spot in modernization. It took us beyond a sort of narrow focus on control procedures to a forward-looking, risk-based system that places quality at the heart of the firm or organization strategy and operations. So it acknowledged that effective quality management processes matter more than, say, ticking off prescribed controls, and that culture, leadership and continuous improvement processes is what truly really drive quality. So this shift has made quality something lived and embedded in organizations now and not just monitored. And then the approach to group audits also had to change significantly. 600 was originally written as a fairly self-contained framework, but that became increasingly out of step with the foundational risk-based standards and the realities of how global organizations operate. So modern groups are complex, interconnected, and they span multiple jurisdictions. So the standard really needed to be focused and modernized to really embed a true risk-based approach. And that works across all groups. And making that shift was defining, both for the standard itself and for the profession, because it aligned group audits with the broader risk and response framework and provided the clarity and consistency needed for engagements, involving large global structures.
Mhm. How would you describe the IAASB's culture and the people who've worked alongside you during your time?
Culture. So culture's always been collaborative and intellectually rigorous, of course, and deeply committed to the public interest. Despite the complexity of our work, which in fairness over the years hasn't suited everyone at the table, there has still been that strong sense of a shared purpose as well. So I've worked with incredibly talented people, as I mentioned before, and really passionate individuals and people who bring not only expertise, but, also humility and openness to different perspectives. And on that, actually, I do think it would be impossible to reflect on this journey without mentioning Tom. His vision and ability to foster really constructive dialogue has been instrumental in guiding the board through a period of significant transformation. And Tom brought a unique combination of strategic insight and inclusiveness that's really helped us navigate complex issues, of course, while still keeping the public interest at the center of every decision.
So, as the IAASB looks to the future with new standards, technology, and sustainability frontiers ahead, what advice would you offer to those continuing the work?
My advice would be think big and stay ahead of the curve. I mean, the pace of change in the profession and in society is only accelerating. Technology's always been around, but it really is transforming how audit and assurance engagements are performed, and stakeholders, of course, are demanding more transparency. So that means the board needs to remain agile and open to change, innovation, while never compromising on the principles that underpin trust, of course. Continue to engage widely with stakeholders. Our strength lies in the ability to bring global perspectives together, and that dialogue will be even more critical as we tackle areas like mandatory sustainability reporting, assurance, technology. And these aren't just technical challenges, they're about meeting public expectations and reinforcing confidence in information that drives those decisions. And finally, of course, keeping the public interest at the heart of everything. Standards are not rules. They're a foundation for trust in markets and institutions. So whether it's developing new standards, addressing technology, or exploring assurance beyond financial statements, always ask, does this serve the public interest? And if that remains the guiding principle, the North Star, then the IAASB will continue to lead effectively in a rapidly changing world.
On a personal note, what will you take away from your experience with the IAASB, professionally or personally, as you turn the page for your next chapter?
Professionally, clearly the power of consensus building and the importance of global perspectives is really critical, especially as we navigate new areas. And then personally, I'll take away lasting relationships and a real sense of pride in contributing something that really truly matters, and that's the integrity of financial and non-financial information worldwide.
Do you have any final words of wisdom for your successor as vice chair?
The vice chairs before me have all operated in slightly different environments with different objectives. So their goals have shifted and changed over the years. However, I would say that the vice chair role has become far less about being the technical expert in the room and more about listening, drawing out diverse viewpoints and helping the board work through complexity quite constructively. I keep saying this, but keep the public interest at the centre of every discussion, create space for all voices to be heard, and of course, meaningful change in audit assurance happens through collaboration and consensus building, as we know. But for anyone on the IAASB, including future board members, know that you're becoming part of an organisation with a clear mission, a strong sense of purpose, and exceptional people. So embrace the experience. It truly is rewarding.
Thank you so much, Josephine, for sharing your reflections, your insights, your wisdom today. It has been a privilege to hear about your incredible journey with the IAASB and the lasting impact that you've had on advancing global audit and assurance standards. Your leadership, your expertise, your commitment to the public interest have inspired colleagues and stakeholders around the world. Your contributions will continue to shape the profession for years to come. To our audience, thank you for tuning in, and we hope Josephine's reflections provide insight into the work and the spirit of the IAASB.